about identity politics and what are its pitfalls?
I guess the thing for me that was valuable about identity politics, Sarah, was as an organizing tool, as a way to find like a group of people. I mean, I think we all can look at identity politics and be like, oh, well, here's one group that I fit into, and then here's this other group that I fit into, and here's this other group, and sometimes they overlap, and sometimes they totally oppose each other, and then you have to create another group that kind of incorporate. I mean, which is in a way what happened with Riot Grrrl, was like being like, I feel totally shut out of punk rock, and I feel like feminism needs to enter into that conversation. And so in a way, it was like two different kind of subculture groups that were kind of formed around certain ideas of identity merging together. And I think that a lot of interesting things can happen from frustration of being like, oh, I'm in this, sexual assault survivor group, but everyone in here is totally rich because I'm in this specific neighborhood when I'm going to this group, but I don't have any working class friends who are in this group. Well, how should I start another group? Do you know what I mean? And like, that's what happened in the 60s, where people were like leaving different groups they were in because they weren't feminist enough, or they, different concerns were happening. And then new things splinter off. It's like when your favorite band breaks up and you get bummed out, and then you go, maybe 4 new great bands are going to start. And so I think there's a certain thing about identity politics that can lead to interesting fractures. But what I saw in some of the Riot Grrrl stuff that was really upsetting was it got to the point where it was shutting down conversations, where it was like, and people were taking over identities that weren't necessarily their own as a way to kind of use identity as a crowbar in a quest for their own kind of personal forms of power. And it was really hard to, women and men have fought for language about sexual harassment and about sexual assault and about rape. And it was frustrating in Riot Grrrl to see things go so out of control that these were becoming places of power for people, where people were like, well, you were raped, let me tell you. And I know this is a terrible thing to say, and you're probably rolling your eyes saying, I can't believe she's saying this, but it's like, there were scenarios that I witnessed, and this is the total 1% out of a million thing that happens, but it's like, oh, well, my story is way worse than your story. And things became, I think everyone who's been involved in organizing in this room probably understands what I'm talking about, where it's like, it became almost like a point system in certain situations. And that really grossed people out, me included, and was really psychologically damaging, because you're seeing this language that people have fought and died for being used to form bars in other people's cages. And it's just totally creepy. And for me, I just didn't want to be around it, and was part of the reason why I sort of slithered away and just kept writing songs. Does that make sense? I'm a little jet lagged, you guys, so bear with me.
Yeah. Beth or Katie, do you guys want to add anything or counter anything?
I think identity politics, there can be some usefulness to spaces that are organized with the intention of convening a group of people that share aspects of who they are and their experience. What was interesting to me about Riot Grrrl was basically the fact that it mirrored consciousness raising groups, where I think there aren't tons of spaces that women and girls form to get in rooms with each other and have conversations. And I think that it can be useful to do that. I don't think that just because you want to have those spaces means that you don't want to have other spaces too. Like, I have mostly played music with women, and a lot of times, I remember once, like years ago, going on a tour and being told that our show had to be canceled in San Diego because they couldn't find any bands that were all girls. And I was just like, well, I don't, just kind of a bummer. It's like, well, I mean, I'm not quite sure what's going on in that thought process, but I I also think that one of the dangers of identity politics is ultimately what you would want is to have a lot of people from all different kinds of identities and backgrounds understand what you feel like and what you deal with. A good way to do that is by encouraging people to read books written by people who are different from them, because then you don't have to drain the person. Like if I want to know a lot about a Latino woman's perspective on something, maybe instead of like going and plying her with a bunch of annoying questions, I could read a book. And I don't know. I mean, that's some of the usefulness of college. It seems like you want to hang out later. I can tell. Yeah, and also a danger of identity politics being that, you know, it may be that the greatest source of emotional strength to you is a straight white boy, and that doesn't make you less of a feminist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying mine is, but
let's I want to talk about music for a minute. And I'm going to start by asking Beth, who created a girls' rock camp in Philadelphia, what's the connection between playing music and personal strength, empowerment, fearlessness? Why is it different to start a girls' rock camp than a girls' chess camp? Why didn't you start a girls' chess camp?
Oh, because my chess skills are really bad.
You
right
see,
now.
look at that abject
yeah.
lack of self-confidence.
We're going to play a game and you're going to be like, yeah. But I think it's big. And there are so many amazing organizations in this town that are about feminist expression in a lot of ways. So it's not about a zero-sum game where like this one is better than this one. So it's whatever you need. That said, rock camps are basically a place for you to express yourself, but it puts you between that rock and a hard place. Do I express myself? If I don't, then I'm opting out and I'm not being like the team player. But if I do, I'm being loud. And is that okay to be loud? But, you know, so you have to make that choice. Am I going to participate and be part of this and make some noise? Which, you know, as a girl, you know, a lot of your fear is like not being part of the group and doing what everyone's doing. But then it's also saying and expressing yourself in a way that people can hear you. So it's like, which way am I not going to fit in here? And it's really amazing to see when the desire to say something and sing something and play something and try a new skill wins out over the fear. And you don't get that with writing. It's not as much performance based. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to do, but it's not something you can opt out of reading aloud. You can opt out of, you know, playing chess if you don't feel like playing a game. But if you're in a band, you have to play that day. And once you do it, it becomes this transformative thing. You know, you have to, I mean, especially playing in a band is so much of a cooperative structure that you do the best you can do individually, but working with other people. And that's where the real power comes in.